Hi everybody, I'm Steve. I'm an alcoholic. This video is going to be about my experience with step 3 in the 12 steps of recovery. Step 3 says, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. The suggested reading is pages 60 to 64 in the big book, which in my opinion are the most important pages in my experience, in my recovery, in the big book, 60 to 64. And step 3 in the 12 and 12. That was the suggested reading. In my experience, steps 2 and 3 form the absolute crux, keystone, foundation, what have you, of the spiritual program of recovery. And it is a spiritual program of recovery. Step 2 is when you open your mind and your heart up to the concept of believing in a higher power. And step 3 is when you start to realize that this higher power is in control and you're not. And you start to go with the flow and kind of let go and let God, and we'll get to that. Very important, hugely transformative, steps 2 and 3. When you start to read step 3 in the big book, what you're going to find is that it talks about selfishness. And in my experience, self-centered fear is the real disease. The disease is not that I drink too much or that I do too much drugs or what have you. People have a tendency to focus on the alcohol or the drugs when actually those are just, in my experience, a symptom of the disease. Alcohol and drugs are what I use to anesthetize the pain that resulted from my delusionally self-centered expectations of the world. And that's what the big book talks about when it talks about step 3. It talks about selfishness, self-centeredness. That we think is the root of all our troubles. We must be rid of this selfishness or it kills us. And what that means is, as an active alcoholic, when you're out there, if you're like me, delusionally self-absorbed, everything was about me, and if it wasn't about me, I made it about me. And I thought I was so awesome that the world, people, places, and things owed me this and that. And if I didn't get it, why don't you all see how awesome I am? Why am I not getting this thing that I deserve? Why are these people not doing what I think that they should be doing? And I was get a resentment about it. And the world was not living up to my extremely self-centered expectations. And I was, as a result, resentful about it most of the time. And that causes suffering. And I chose to anesthetize this suffering with alcohol and drugs. And it worked for a while until it got out of control, and then it caused unbearable suffering. Incomprehensible demoralization, as they call it. So what it says, and what my experience is, that I had to start to realize that I only have a little bit of control I only have control over the decisions that I make and the things that I do and the things that I say on my side of the street. And what happens on other people's side of the street is none of my business. So I had to let go of expectations around people, places, and things, and the way that I thought that people, places, and things should act or do. And I had to just start focusing more on my actions and what I was going to do to kind of make myself better, because I only had control over my thoughts and my words and my own actions. So when I stopped trying to control everything and everyone around me and just leave the external world up to my higher power to do with as he sees fit, then I got serenity from that. And that serenity is a cornerstone of my sobriety, because if I'm not burned up and feeling resentful about circumstances in the world, people, places, and things, then I've got nothing that I need to anesthetize with alcohol and drugs. And that's what step 3 talks about. It's self-centered fear, selfishness, versus faith. Starting to let go and let God. That's another sign that you'll see on the walls in meetings, signs that say let go and let God. That means just going with the flow of whatever the universe decides it's going to put in your path, and I only worry about my side of the street and try to do the best I can with my own thoughts and my own actions, and let go of other people, places, things, circumstances, and how I think that everyone else in the world should be acting, or things like that. And so fear versus faith. Less and less fear around the future, and more faith that my higher power has got it under control. I don't need to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow or the next week or next year. I just have to worry about doing the next right thing today, and have faith that my higher power has got it under control, and there is a divine plan for my life. And in order for me to be a part of what my higher power has planned for me, I just have to kind of seek that through prayer, and kind of ask my higher power, what do you have in store for me, and can you help me today to sort of fulfill what your will is for me? And that is the opposite of fear. Faith and fear are sort of, they can't really coexist. And so in step 3, we're starting to become self-aware of our own selfishness and the suffering that our selfishness has caused. And we're starting to build some faith that our higher power's got it under control and we don't need to worry about it. And that then the fear can start to come down. And that all equals serenity. And serenity, again, is a cornerstone of successful sobriety in my experience. Because again, if I'm not full of fear and I'm not full of resentment, then I'm feeling pretty good, and I don't have to anesthetize anything. I don't feel the need to take that drink or seek that drug to get relief from those feelings. So it's a heavy topic. Step 3 is definitely one of those steps that I keep going back to. And we'll get to that further down in subsequent steps. But steps 2 and 3 are heavy. They're transformative, and they're a long, still going process for me. And that's my experience with 2 and 3.